There is a moment that separates the good from the exceptional. It happens after everyone thinks the work is done. After you've typed the last sentence, cooked the meal, finished the presentation, completed the project, most people relax in that moment. They exhale, smile, and move on to the next thing. But there is something they miss, something invisible, but powerful. And missing it costs them everything they worked for. I learned this the hard way. For years, I wondered why my work never quite landed the way I wanted. I would write articles that were almost great, create projects that were nearly finished, practice skills until I was close to mastery. The word almost followed me everywhere. I told myself I was being efficient, that perfectionism was my enemy, that done was better than perfect. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was stopping too early. Not because I was lazy, but because I didn't understand that the action wasn't truly complete when I thought it was. Then I discovered a word that changed everything: Zanshin. In Japanese martial arts, Zanshin means remaining mind, or lingering spirit. But the translation barely captures what it really means. Zanshin is the state of awareness you maintain even after you think the technique is finished. It is the complete follow-through that most people never give. And it is the difference between someone who is competence and someone who is masterful. When a samurai executed a sword strike, the moment the blade made contact was not the end. That was only the middle. The samurai would maintain perfect form, keep his eyes on the opponent, stay balanced and ready. The strike was not truly complete until he had returned to kame, the ready stance, with full awareness still intact. This space after the action, this continued presence, was Zanshin. And warriors who neglected it often paid with their lives. The greatest duel in samurai history proves this point. On a small island called Ganryujima in 1612, two legendary swordsmen faced each other. Miyamoto Musashi, who would win over 60 duels in his lifetime without a single loss, and Sasaki Kojiro, known as the Demon of the Western Provinces, master of the impossibly long Nodachi sword, and inventor of a technique so fast it was called Tsubame Geishi, the Swallow's Return. The story of this duel is famous. How Musashi arrived 3 hours late to disturb Kojiro's mental state. How he carved a wooden sword from a boat oar, making it longer than Kojiro's already oversized blade. How he positioned himself so the rising sun would blind his opponent. These tactics are well known, but what most people miss is what happened after the decisive strike. When the two finally clashed, Kojiro attacked first with blinding speed. His blade came so close to Musashi's head that it cut through his headband, leaving a thin line of blood on his forehead. But Musashi's wooden sword connected first, striking Kojiro on the skull with devastating force. Kojiro fell to the ground. The duel appeared over. This is the moment where most warriors would have relaxed, turned away, celebrated victory. Kojiro was down, clearly defeated, mortally wounded. The officials watching began to move forward. Musashi had won. But here is what changed everything. Musashi maintained perfect Zanshin. He did not lower his guard. He did not turn away. He kept his full awareness on Kojiro, his weapon ready, his body balanced. And that awareness saved his life. Because Kojiro, even while dying, attempted one final strike. From the ground, with his last strength, he swung his long blade horizontally at Musashi's legs. If Musashi had relaxed even for a second, if he had believed the fight was over when Kojiro fell, that strike would have crippled or killed him. But because Musashi maintained Zanshin, he saw the attack coming and stepped back easily. Only then did he deliver the final blow. Only then was the action truly complete. This is not just a story about fighting. It is about how we approach everything in life. We live in a world that rewards starting and celebrates finishing lines. But nobody talks about the space in between, the moment after you think you're done. That moment is where most people lose what they worked for. You write an email and hit send without reading it one more time. You practice a presentation until you can get through it, then stop before you can deliver it powerfully. You cook a meal and serve it the moment it is edible, not when it is actually ready. You build something until it works, but not until it works well. These incomplete actions seem small, but they add up to a reputation, not with others first, but with yourself. You become someone who almost finishes things, someone who is pretty good, but never quite excellent. Why does this happen? The answer lies in how our brains are wired. When you finish typing that email, your brain releases a small hit of satisfaction. You completed a task. That neurochemical reward arrives the moment you reach what looks like the end. By the time you should be reviewing the email, the satisfaction has already been delivered. Reading it again feels like work without reward. Your brain sees no reason to continue. The same pattern repeats everywhere. You practice guitar until you can almost play the song. Your brain rewards you for that progress. Practicing until you can play it perfectly feels like unnecessary extra work. You clean the kitchen, but leave one dish in the sink. Most of it is clean, and your brain has already given you the completion signal. That one dish feels like a burden, not a final touch. This is the trap of the 90% mindset. You get most of the satisfaction for doing most of the work, but you miss the final 10% that transforms good work into exceptional work. And that final 10% is exactly where Zanshin lives. The first principle of Zanshin is maintaining awareness beyond the moment you think you are done. In traditional Japanese calligraphy, when a master finishes the last stroke of a character, they do not immediately lift the brush. They hold it there for a full breath, maintaining the same quality of attention and pressure they had during the stroke itself. This pause, this sustained presence, allows them to feel if anything more is needed. Sometimes they notice the stroke needs to extend slightly. Sometimes they see that the balance is not quite right. Without Zanshin, they would miss these subtle adjustments entirely. With Zanshin, they create work that feels complete in a way that goes beyond technique. Apply this to your own work. When you finish writing something, that is not the signal to close the document. That is the signal to read it once more with fresh eyes. Not to find mistakes, though you will find some, but to see if it truly says what you meant to say. When you finish a conversation, that is not the signal to walk away. That is the moment to pause and feel if anything remains unsaid. When you complete a task, that is not the invitation to rush to the next one. That is the opportunity to review, adjust, and ensure it meets your actual standard, not just your tired standard. The second principle reveals why Zanshin creates such a dramatic difference in results. Two people might have the same skills, the same knowledge, the same talent, but one practices Zanshin and one does not. Over time, the gap between them grows enormous. A chef who tastes the dish one more time before serving catches the seasoning that is slightly off. A carpenter who runs their hand over the finished surface one more time feels the rough spot that needs attention. A teacher who stays present for 3 seconds after asking a question gives students time to think deeply instead of jumping in with the answer. These tiny extensions of awareness, repeated thousands of times, create mastery. I once met a potter in Kyoto named Haruki, who taught me this in a way I have never forgotten. I watched him work for an afternoon, shaping clay on his wheel. When a bowl looked finished to my untrained eyes, I expected him to remove it and start the next one. Instead, he sat with it. He would stop the wheel and simply look at the bowl for a long time, occasionally touching it with just his fingertips, making adjustments so small I could barely see them. After several minutes of this, he would make 3 or 4 final touches with his tool. Then, and only then, would he carefully lift the bowl from the wheel. I asked him why he spent so much time on those tiny final adjustments. The bowl already looked perfect. His answer stayed with me. He said, "The bowl is finished for the customer maybe 10 minutes before I am actually done with it." They would be happy with it then. But those final 10 minutes are not for the customer. They are for me. This is where I practice Zanshin. If I skip this part, I teach myself that close enough is acceptable. And once I accept that, I am no longer a craftsman. I am just someone making bowls. The third principle of Zanshin addresses something most people never consider. The action is not truly complete until you have returned to a state of readiness. After a karate master executes a strike, they do not simply drop their hands and relax. They flow back into kamae, the balanced ready stance. After an archer releases the arrow, they maintain their form and posture until the arrow reaches the target, then slowly, deliberately lower the bow. After a tea ceremony concludes, the host carefully cleans and returns every utensil to its proper place. These warriors and masters understood something crucial. Completion includes the return to center. This principle transforms how you move through your day. You finish a difficult meeting, but instead of immediately checking your phone or rushing to the next thing, you take 3 conscious breaths. You note what happened, let your nervous system settle, and then consciously shift to the next activity. You complete an intense workout, but you do not collapse on the floor. You cool down properly, stretch, and return your body to a resting state. You have a challenging conversation with someone, but you do not just walk away when the words stop. You take a moment to ground yourself, perhaps a short walk, before returning to normal life. These small transitions are not wasted time. They are the completion of the cycle. They are Zanshin. Without this return to readiness, you carry residue from one activity into the next. You finish a stressful project, but the tension stays in your shoulders. You end a phone call, but your mind keeps replaying the conversation. You close your laptop, but you never really stop working. This incomplete follow-through leaves everything feeling unresolved. You are always in the middle of something, never fully present, never fully at rest. Zanshin teaches that true completion includes the conscious return to neutral. The power of Zanshin does not require grand gestures or huge amounts of extra time. It lives in the small space between when you think you are done and when you actually are. It is in the 3 seconds you pause before sending the message. It is in the extra minute you spend testing your work one more time. It is in the conscious breath you take after finishing something before moving to what is next. Most people rush through this space without even knowing it exists. They finish and immediately relax, complete, and instantly move on. But this hurried incompletion creates a life that feels scattered and unsatisfying. Here's what surprised me most when I started practicing Zanshin. It does not actually take much more time. That email you need to read one more time? Maybe 20 seconds. That dish you left in the sink? 30 seconds to wash it. That moment to ground yourself after a meeting? 3 breaths, maybe 15 seconds. The time investment is tiny, but the psychological impact is enormous. Each time you practice complete follow-through, you are training yourself at a deep level. You are becoming someone whose word means something, someone whose work can be trusted, someone who finishes what they start, not just technically, but in spirit. The samurai knew that how you end something reveals more about your character than how you begin it. Anyone can start with enthusiasm. Everyone feels motivated in the beginning. But maintaining presence and awareness through to actual completion, that requires discipline. That requires Zanshin. And that is what separates those who achieve lasting excellence from those who remain forever almost there. Here is how you can practice Zanshin in your daily life. 1. Before you send any message or submit any work, pause for 3 conscious breaths and review it once more. Look at it as if you are seeing it for the first time. 2. When you finish a task, ask yourself one question. Is this truly complete, or is this just done enough? 3. create a simple transition ritual between activities. It can be as basic as taking 30 seconds to acknowledge completion before moving forward. 4. At the end of each day, spend 5 minutes reviewing what you completed. Note anything that still needs that final 10% of attention. 5. Choose one specific area of your life where you consistently stop at 90%. For the next week, commit to practicing complete follow-through in just that one area. You do not need to be perfect in every moment. You do not need to practice Zanshin with every single action. That would be exhausting and impossible. But you can choose specific moments where completion truly matters. The email to someone you respect, the project you want to be known for, the skill you are trying to master, the conversation with someone you love. In these moments, give Zanshin. Give that extra breath of attention. Give that final touch that transforms almost done into actually complete. Zanshin is not about control or perfectionism. It is about respect. Respect for your effort, which deserves to be finished properly. Respect for the people who will receive your work, who deserve your best. Respect for yourself, for the person you are becoming through how you complete things. When Musashi maintained Zanshin after striking Kojiro, he was not being paranoid. He was honoring the reality that actions are not finished when they appear finished. They are finished when they are actually complete. The samurai practiced Zanshin not because they were warriors, but because they were craftsmen of their own lives. Every action was an opportunity to demonstrate awareness. Every completion was a chance to show that they understood the difference between done and complete. They knew that a person who cannot finish small things properly will not finish large things properly either. They knew that the habits you build in private become the character you display in public. If you are ready to transform almost done into truly complete, write in the comments, "I practice Zanshin." Thank you for being here and for choosing to honor your work with complete presence.